Hello and welcome back to the official Scottish Rugby podcast. I'm Jimmy McMillan, and with me as always I have Al Kellock, Lindsay Smith and Chris Patterson. Joining us in the studio this week we have skills coach for Scotland and Glasgow Warriors Mike Blair, plus we hear from Greig Laidlaw, Gregor Townsend and Matt Taylor. We're delighted to have Mike Blair in the studio with us today. Mike, obviously just back from Paris yesterday. Welcome to the studio.
Nice to be here.
We need to just touch on the game from the weekend. Disappointing result. You're very close to the squad with your role. You've had time to look back at that game and time to digest it. What's your overall look on that game?
Frustration's the main thing. We didn't put our best game out onto the pitch. First couple of games that France we had, we knew that if we got on top of them early that it would shatter their confidence a little bit, but we let them into the game. We made a few errors ourselves, gave them confidence going into the game, especially a few of their young players. With Ramos at 15, we gave him an opportunity to get into the game with a break. Didn't put a huge amount of pressure on their access to the 9-10, both inexperienced guys. But we played some good stuff, but unfortunately we weren't able to kind of keep the foot in the throat for the whole game.
Like we looked at the game as a whole. You kind of touched on the fact that probably didn't bring out the performance we wanted to bring out. But 60-65 minutes were still for me sitting there. I thought we're going to win this game. The bench came on and did exceptionally well.
Yeah, I felt exactly the same thing. It was about 67, 68 minutes. I think it was Blair Kinghorn made the break up the middle. And at the time I thought Ali Price was really on in that short ball just on the inside, and that would have put us within 5 points, all the momentum in our favour. I think actually their defence did really well in the pass, maybe wasn't on, but as you say, the momentum would have been all with us at that stage. And I was still feeling confident. The guys coming off the benches did a really good job to bring energy to the team. But unfortunately we didn't get that little breakthrough there. You
don't often see 6 subs coming on at the same time, but clearly from you guys in the sideline tactics were that we need a big impact at that point, and it seemed to work.
Yeah, it's one of those strange things. The energy didn't quite seem to be there from the starting 15. A few of the areas that we pride ourselves on, the work off the ball, shutting down their counter attack, stuff like that, we weren't quite seeing that. And I just say the guys who came off the bench, now it's a little bit different because the French team had fatigued a little bit by that stage, but thought the guys who came on did a really good job.
I was impressed with France, to be honest. I was at the time I ironically really enjoyed the game because I thought it was some really good rugby played. I went back and watched it pretty closely yesterday or last night, and we did make a lot of mistakes from Scotland's point of view, but I actually was really impressed by France. I think they picked the right balance to their team for the first time in the championship. Their forwards were physical. You can measure how much it meant to them in some of their kick chase. It's one thing that we could do better, I think, but their kick chase was excellent, filled the field, not just chasing towards the ball but shutting down any counter-attack opportunities we had. I just thought they were excellent.
I thought they were very good going forward. You could see, Mike touched on it there, we had to start well. They needed to gather momentum. They were lacking confidence. I didn't think much of them in defence at times.
We almost scored one try.
See, I think they held out quite well when they were down to 14. Yeah,
but if you look at the last 10 minutes, last 20 minutes of each half at times, they had guys hiding on the short side. We had opportunities, but we didn't take them because of mistakes. Now we left a lot of points out there that ordinarily against a better defence you wouldn't get. Do you know what I think, Mike?
I think the fatigue element was definitely something in that last 20 minutes. We started playing the ball out the back a lot more of those pods off 9, so we were able to find an edge a little bit more, but we didn't quite have the right personnel in the right places. So you'll see that last 10-15 minutes where we half broken them, but rather than having a Blair Kinghorn on the edge, we have a Grant Gilchrist. No disrespect to the second rows, I'm sure he would have done a job out there, Al. But yeah, it did seem like we'd manipulated the defence, but we didn't quite have the right players in the right positions at the right time.
Bastro for me, Mossy, was brilliant in defence or terrible in defence. He made some last ditch tackles which Blair on a couple of occasions looked as if he'd beaten him, but on other occasions he's on the short side with 4 or 5 players where we've got an overlap, but we didn't take those opportunities. I think they were there to be taken.
I don't know. I think it looked. I said at the time it looked as if Scotland targeted Bastro in defence, which is it sounds a wee bit contradicted. Really, target someone who hits as hard as that, but if you can actually put 2 men or 2 or 3 players in his channel and makes him make a decision, sits on his heels, he's then slower to adapt or react to the space round about him. And I think we did create space round about him. Most of the line breaks came in around his channel. When he hits you obviously. But I just thought there was so much desire in the French team under the stress they've had and the pressure they've been under. The crowd got behind them right away. They took our first line out, got into the game. The first kick-off, as Jamie and I spoke about, Damien Penaud hit Sean Maitland. Sean did well to take it. They gave away a penalty, but there was a real statement in that. I thought their defence was excellent, and I actually thought that, of course we could have played better. Some of the mistakes we made in the second half against Ireland were evident in the game at the weekend as well. But I feel guilty saying this, but I don't agree with you thinking that in 20 minutes we could go on and win it if we scored. I felt France had another gear, just by the number of opportunities they created. The 4 TMO decisions for no try were right, absolutely right, but the alarming thing is it was 4 opportunities for them to score that to me shows that they were actually attacking really well, and I thought they defended well. But the games are so finely balanced, aren't they? One or two things goes your way, it's a completely different story.
I thought going forward they were exceptional. We struggled at times, and to your point, at half time there could have been another couple of tries against us. I'm just looking at the game, I thought that there were opportunities for us to take. As I say, we definitely talked about Bastrop. Bastrop defended quite a lot at 12, Mike. Were you expecting that? I know that to Moss's point we were going to target him, but we expect them to defend one in.
Yeah, that's what we'd seen. They'd play a couple of games, Fico and Bastereau before that, wearing the 12 and 13 jerseys like they were, but defending the other way around. So we did expect that. At small margins, a couple of times Blair got a little tap tackle on him, but on Moss's point about the French, like their selection was an exciting one.
Yeah.
Like playing Dupont or selecting Dupont at 9, who's been, I know he's been injured for about 8 months. He's been back for about 6 months now. But he was some player, wasn't he, when he was kind of 18, 19 and played at Cast, and then went to Toulouse for massive money, and like he's an incredible player. And I just thought the selection of Para early on in the championship, he's more controlling, he's maybe more of a general, but Dupont's exciting and Tamac's exciting, Ramos is exciting, and on one side you've got that where they're a real threat, but at the same time I think we've probably allowed those guys to play a little bit too much. We didn't put them under enough pressure. Well,
I'll give you that. It was quite funny. Thomas Castagned was working at the game as well, and he said he's now involved in the board of directors at Toulouse, and we said, you've got such an exciting young backline, especially with the talent they've got in the Toulouse players and the way they play. They're top of the French league and throwing about, and he was actually he said Intermac's excellent, he's an outstanding player. He's only played 8 times in senior rugby starting as a standoff, so he says he's not worried about it. But a stronger selection he actually thought was Serran at 9 and Dupont at 10, which you could have gone to that as well. He says Dupont is such a good player, he could play anywhere, and he rates Serran as well. He says so you could almost had Intermac in his more favoured position of 12 or coming on at 12, and Dupont starting and Serran.
Just on that style of play with Toulouse, speaking to Greig Laidlaw last week, and he'd said he'd spoken to some of the Clermont players just in the autumn, about this style of play, and their backs coach is a guy we've played against a fair bit, Jean-Baptiste Elassald, who played for 15 years at Toulouse, and I remember the games that when we were at Edinburgh, and offloading in the contact, and that's what he talked about. They talk, in French you call it en axe, so kind of in behind, so looking to offload and players flooding in behind, and you could see that in the way they play, and they've got the personnel who are able to do that as well.
Just on Bastro, you touched on it. He, for me as well, in attack, a chip and chase as well. I mean, when was the last time we saw Bastro go for that, but also execute it as well as he did?
Well, it was such a hard skill to do. You see it often, but because it was such a short chip as well, it was even harder. Not being too critical, but he had time to do it. He had time. I'm sure Michael will agree with me here. It was almost caught on his own. Yeah, they'd broken the line, they were in behind us, but we'd reorganised pretty quickly. But we stood off him a little bit with numbers in defence, and it gave him a decision to make. He made it, and then just to be on the move, and for such a big guy to kick it so softly and not break stride was pretty impressive. There was a roar in the Stade de France with it. I don't know how you describe the roar, whether it was elation, surprise, or there's a bit of hilarity in there as well. But brilliant piece of skill. But Did we give him too much time, Mike?
Well, yeah, my opinion on it was a good bit of skill, but should never have been allowed to happen. Like the players around there have got to react a little bit quicker. So read the body language, drop in behind. The line speed probably at the start wasn't good enough, so we kind of trotted up a little bit, whereas if there's line speed on it, he's got to kick a little bit earlier, and you adapt to that as well. So good bit of skill, but I think it's something on another day we'd be looking to shut down.
As a 9, what were you more impressed with, his chip and catch or his dive pass?
The dive pass, there was a rumble of the earth as he hit the ground, wasn't there?
After the game in Paris, I spoke with defence coach for Scotland, Matt Taylor.
Unfortunately, we kind of sat back again in both sides of the ball, and we, rather than taking the game to them, which probably in the last 15-20 minutes we really did, and you saw the results from that. And I think sometimes away from home we allow teams, unfortunately, to take the game to us rather than the other way around. I think to win away from home, you've got to take the game to the opposition.
And what was the message at half time? What were you trying to rectify from the first half?
The message at half time was we kind of made some technical details around attack and defence, but it was about the energy, about bringing energy and taking the game to the opposition. So what we've just discussed there was the main message. Let's speed the tempo up, let's take the game to them, and we feel that our fitness is better, or should have been better than France's, and we need to push that part of the game, and we felt we probably didn't do that.
And just finally, you mentioned it earlier on, but quite an impact off the bench there in the final kind of moments of the game. You must have been quite happy with the performance that the boys off the bench put in.
Yeah, I thought the bench was outstanding. They took the game to France, and really we got some good tries on the back of that. And it's disappointing that we didn't do that in the first 20 minutes, and finish off strong in the last 20 minutes. So we'll need to do that against Wales. A big game against opposition, which is a very good opposition. So, but we'll look forward to getting back to Murrayfield.
Let's hear from Captain Greig Laidlaw and Head Coach Gregor Townsend in the post-match press conference.
General thoughts, obviously coming straight off the field, it's disappointing because we feel as though we're letting ourselves down in some senses. France played well also, and we were in the game still at half time. In the first action we do in the second half as we let them score a try, and that puts massive pressure on us to come back. So we're massively disappointed with how that played out. And we felt if we could have stayed in the hunt, we probably never played great in the first half, but if we stayed in the hunt, and we could have came back and won the game, and giving them 5 points straight after the break certainly didn't help the cause.
Why certain parts of our game, especially our kick chase, which has been excellent so far in this season, this campaign, was not accurate today. Why we didn't bring the same line speed in defence as we did last week, 2 weeks ago against Ireland. Now part of the reason I know straight away is that France played well and they play a different game that asks more questions of the defence, or different questions of the defence I should say, than other teams. And when they get the wind behind them and the crowd behind them, and they make breaks from their own 22, it can certainly destabilise the defence and put us under pressure. So everything is related. If we don't bring the energy at the beginning of the game and the opposition get confidence and make breaks, our defence naturally doesn't come up as fast because they're a bit wary of what the attack are doing. If we make errors and you start to question your own confidence, or start to have doubts about how we're transferring what we're capable of and what we've trained at during the week into a performance that's going to win. At times we regrouped and we came back, but obviously wasn't enough to win.
The attention now will turn to preparing for the Wales game. Mike, fundamentally, what does Scotland have to do in these 2 weeks to get a result over Wales?
The big thing first is the energy, and it's not something that we've had an issue with at Murrayfield. The crowd getting behind us, and us putting our best game in the pitch. I guess there'll be things within that. Having watched the Wales England game, a brutal contest, lots of kicking in it. So we're going to have to do a lot of work around that area as well.
Watching that game, watched it in Paris before I flew home, so it's difficult really to get a total understanding of it. We'll definitely have another look at it before we play, but did it look to you as if both teams almost wanted rid of the ball to try and impose themselves through defence rather than attack? Like it's almost as if somehow the attack didn't want to commit an error, they wanted to get rid of it and then really apply the aggressive line speed and aggressive defence that both England have.
I think you'll often get that at the start of games, kind of feeling the opposition out, seeing who's going to blink first, who's going to go for that counter attack that might put themselves under a little bit of pressure if things don't go right, and that kind of continued throughout the game, didn't it? And it's a different style of game, isn't it? Some people might say, well, that's international rugby. The less mistakes you make, the more likely you are to be in the fight. But we believe that there are different ways to doing things, and Wales, England, they might alter their strategy for the different games that they play in as well.
Very difficult team to play against though, because they can frustrate you. They're so brutal at the breakdown.
Wales?
Wales. They'll give you the ball. They'll ask you to play out. I suppose the important thing for us is getting that balance right and not allowing them to dictate the game.
Yeah, you want to impose your own attacking game in the opposition. You don't want to just give them the ball and that'll allow them to get into the game as well. It's interesting to see probably the first 3 games of the championship. The tactic we've seen probably the most of across the board is this attacking kicking games. So playing grubbers into the corners, attacking kicks. Wales scored off another one at the weekend. I think each week there's been a try or two that's come from an attacking kick, whether it's a clean race to the line or someone making a fumble and a score coming off it. So that's a really important part of the game. But at the same time, it's that balancing act between potentially giving up the ball from your possession to enforcing a little bit of pressure with your kicking game.
And that's filtering down as well. Lindsay, the under-20 scored 2 tries from kick attack. The French women scored tries from kick attack as well. It's across the board, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the game, but the French 12, she was kicking all day, and I think she scored her own chip and chase, but I think she scored a hat trick at the weekend. She was a different class, but her kicking game was strong, and it made a big difference.
If we can just go back to the men's game, just want to get your thoughts on this, guys, but it seemed like we kept the ball in hand a lot more than usual. Do you think we didn't maybe kick the ball as much as we have done in the past?
It's kicking at the right time, isn't it? I mean, I think there used to be a mindset across the board generically that kicking was to get you out of trouble or to get you territory, but now I see kicking as a much more attacking threat. Counter-attacking teams in counter-attack are so much better now that you don't really want to just kick away possession, because teams will either, like Ireland, hold possession for a huge number of phases, or like France at the weekend, have the ability to cut you open. So I think kicks are more contestable now than they used to be, so it's difficult to say really, because there's loads of different types of kicks. But something I thought we did really well in the first couple of rounds was managed to keep saying that middle third about kicking at the right times. And going back to Antoine Dupont, the first thing he did, known as a brilliant attacking player, the first thing he did in the game was kick the ball and grubber it into our 22 to put pressure on us after we'd had troubles at the first line out. So there's loads of different types of kicks, but I think from our point of view, could we have kicked more? We probably could have kicked more, but the kick is one thing, the kick chase is another, and I said before, our kick chase could have been better. So if we are kicking with the plans to kick, then that kick chase has to follow.
Did anyone see the Ireland-Italy game on the weekend on Sunday?
I did. It was an incredible game. It didn't go anywhere near the way I thought it was going to go. I think it was you and I, Mike, chatting on the way back from Paris about what the score was going to be. And
wasn't me, Al.
You don't speak to each other, do you?
Memorable conversation.
Maybe you're speaking to yourself.
I did see it, Jamie. I thought it was a really interesting game. I mean, Italy grabbed hold of that game and left a few chances out there, but ultimately Ireland at times were dreadful. They made so many mistakes. They didn't seem to get their game plan right, but they got out with a 5-point victory, which I suppose I'd be pretty happy with.
Yeah, bonus point away from home, you'll take that, won't you? It's interesting as well, the last play of the game where Italy had the penalty and they were 10 points down, and I mean, obviously, Italy at the foot of the table, yet to win, yet to score a point, but they opted to try and kick a penalty from 5 metres from the touchline to get a losing bonus point, surely he would go to the corner and try and get a try as well.
It came from Conor O'Shea, and Geraldini had already pointed at the corner. It was exactly the opposite of trying to sub your goalkeeper just before a penalty.
We're in that
penalty shootout. But they listened to Conor, and Conor obviously said, no, you're taking the points. I don't know what the thinking was, whether it was to better what had happened the week before. It was also the percentage of kick. Mossy, you say all the time that you don't get the points until they're through the middle. That was a tough kick. Would have been, hindsight, it would have been better to go to the corner and either clearly drive for the score or get another penalty.
Well, it played a part in our game as well, didn't it? It was 20 points to 10. The clock was up, and we'd already discussed if we had a penalty, we'd kick it goal and take the bonus point. France, they got a penalty, and maybe typical French fashion, they went for touch and missed touch. But they were looking for that fourth try. So, it's an interesting part where the spectators got an extra 5 minutes of the game, where previously you would have just kind of tapped it and kicked the ball out.
I think the biggest point of that was the statement that was from the French, with the pressure. Again, go back to the pressure on them from their fans, the way they've been playing. But there are actually 2 or 3 opportunities at least to stop that game, and they were like, no. And I said in commentary it was brave, and people were saying, well, it's not brave because the game was won. But I actually thought it was brave to put on record or put on display how important that bonus point, if they were going to get it, would be.
Is it worth talking about the end to that game? And we went to the TMO, so laws have changed. You can kick the penalty out now and carry on. We then went to TMO. It was a scrum decision, so no try, scrum. But because it was the original penalty, meant the game couldn't be ended. Did you guys talk about that in comms as well, or?
Run me through that again now.
Well,
he's talking about scrummaging. You don't need to listen.
It was still a penalty though.
It's still a penalty, even though he's awarded a scrum because it's been.
No. They came back and said the referee said if it's not a try, I'm coming back for a penalty. We're on a penalty advantage anyway, and then Bastard opted to scrum.
That's the difference, Al.
It's not the two guys.
Were you speaking to yourself?
The referee signalled for this. He looked as if he was going to signal for a penalty, but then signalled straight away for the scrum.
Then he said over his mic as the Robin Kit, the TMO was going, he says, we're coming back to a penalty regardless.
So therefore can you end on a TMO decision? So if he's gone up the stairs,
the TMO decision was a penalty though.
Yeah.
No, if the TMO's decision is no try and it's 5 metre scrum, can you end
that
the game?
That would be the end of it if you wouldn't come back to a penalty. Yeah.
Okay. It's not the way I saw it.
That clarify it for you.
It clarifies it. I'm not sure he's right, but it clarifies it.
Genuinely, they said because you can see, and the comment we made in commentary was Bastero within a blink of an eye was demanding the scrum right away as soon as.
I like being the middleman making the final call on this, but Al, I was kind of standing in there, and Chris's version of things is absolutely spot on. You're speaking rubbish.
On the TMO as well, the first disallowed try for France, and being in the stadium, they were showing the wrong element of that, and I didn't have the comms. But when I watched it back in the plane, the TMO was having real challenges getting the right picture. And I think you touched on it in commentary, Mossy. But I think the French were being a little bit slow and maybe finding the right clips to show.
Best ask Mike. He was right. And now Mike, you got an answer this one as well.
Glad you asked. But I mean, this isn't an interesting part of the game because bringing up old stories. But when Stuart Hogg got late tackled against Ireland with O'Mahony, our feedback afterwards was that was a yellow card offence. But the clip wasn't found at the time. I think the first time it was viewed was at half time in the game. And now that's something that can change a game. I know with the Pro 14 stuff, the home team's kind of almost in charge of what's being shown on the big screen. So not in charge of what goes out live, but what goes on the big screen. And sometimes, if a try is given to the away team, suddenly the clip comes up where there's a knock on in there, then that can change the flow of a game, can it?
But you're right, because
thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome, Mike.
You're right for the first time.
Hoggy's red card in Wales purely came about because of the number of replays that were shown in the big screen. It was a yellow card, that was it, and the broadcaster repeatedly showed the offence on the big screen.
It wasn't the broadcaster in that
It was the internal.
Yeah, it's changed now, so I think the big screens have to show what's broadcast. But there was a change about that.
Probably, and that's back to your point. Is they have the control potentially to impact the game. And if this is a French broadcaster, they're going to be a little bit slow trying to find the clips potentially.
The good thing was that we got the right decision in the end. You know, I do think it was. I mean, it looked as if it came off a leg first, somebody's calf, and then Dupont did knock it on, I think. So they got the right decision in the end. And the other thing there was, or the one where Fico came in, remember Jamie Richard placed the ball back, and the referees have to give an on-field decision now, so they can't just kind of ask a TMO to say, what do you think? They have to say my on-field decision is a try or no try, and if there's no compelling evidence either way, the on-field decision sticks. So it was, Nick Berry said that his on-field decision there was a try.
Yep.
But I think they got that one right as well.
They got that one right. Speaking to Nick after the game, and he talked about the fact that Nigel intervened as well.
Nigel came in. It's worth checking.
Really interesting one, that the one that Jamie had no intention of grounding that ball. Jamie was placing the ball back, but ended up with downward force beyond his line, and therefore scrum 5 to France.
Well, do you know the laws on that, Al?
Well, there's no offside line. As soon as the ball's over the goal area, there's no offside line. So the French were well within the right to do what they're doing.
Well done.
Is that one each?
I think that's one each. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, the way I looked at that one, or surmised it, was Jamie's not trying to, touch it down. He's trying to place it. But if it were flip on its head and that was you going for a try, there's enough force there or downward pressure there to award a try. So, and that was the third French try came from that scrum, didn't it?
Absolutely. You got that one, Mike? We don't need to go any further into that one.
Play on.
Now, before we're going to have a more in-depth chat with Mike later on, but just quickly want to look at the other fixtures around the weekend. We had the under-20s in France and also the women's game. I watched the under-20s game. I don't know if anybody else saw it, but it was a brilliant game of rugby. The scoreline maybe doesn't reflect Scotland's performance, but they were in that game at half-time. They were leading just after half-time. Did anyone else catch that game or any elements of that game?
I did see the game. They did play well. I mean, the French are a big physical team. Controlled it pretty well, but getting 50-60 minutes into the game, you're like, oh, we've got the momentum, we're looking good. Again, French subs came on and did well. But it was a performance. It was a level up from our boys. It was another good performance.
Yeah, I saw bits. I saw highlights. It was wound up 42-27 to France. Scotland came back and led the game just after half time, after being, I think it was 21-0 down early on. But some cracking tries from the Scottish lads. It was much better tempo. They were using the kind of space better than they did do week 1 and week 2. But French, again, I know their under-20s won the World Championship last year, and some of those players have graduated into the international team already, but there's a brilliant crop of young players, because some of the tries that they scored as well, Al, have you seen the French under-20s, as were ours, but as you say, a really good game, some really good tries on both sides. And
I think as well, for me, watching the game, for these young boys as well, it was like 18.5 sold out stadium.
Yeah, it's full. It
was full. The actual broadcast coverage of it, it looked brilliant, and for these boys to have an occasion like that will also be a huge benefit to them. Do you agree with that, Al?
I do completely. Not only the occasion, but it is incredibly tough to go to France and win. Now the guys will have taken enough confidence from the fact that they were in that game. Now the late tries from France make the scoreline look probably bigger than it should. So they'll learn an awful lot from that. Yes, big occasions. Yes, the way the game went out, they'll come back better players.
Let's just moving on to the women now. They were playing in Lille, a 41-10 defeat. But listening to Shade and Lisa in the post-match press conference, it seemed that there was some positives they can take out of that performance.
Yeah, definitely. As Al touched on earlier, France is a hard place to go and play, and it's a big occasion. I think they had 8,500 in the ground, and then their TV audience was really high as well. But in terms of Scotland's performance, I spoke to Shade Monroe earlier today, and he was happy with parts of the performance. There was big improvements from their previous 2 games, and they scored 2 tries in France, which is the first time they've done that in 9 years. So a bit of credit there as well. And I think it was Rona Lloyd and Emma Wassell that crossed the line. So some good individual performances from certain players, but moving on to Wales, they're going to have to tighten up a wee bit, maybe a little bit of work up front on the scrum, because France tends to dominate them in that area.
The Wales game's massive now, and
it's huge.
The results haven't gone the way Shade or the rest of the women's team would have wanted Wales coming off of a heavy defeat from England.
Yeah, Wales are in the same boat as well.
Yeah.
Haven't registered a win in this tournament yet this year, but obviously they're travelling, they're coming to Scotland. I think the women have really made Scotland a home of their own in the last kind of couple of years, so I think they'll really be, picking on the crowd to get behind them this time.
Will the girls have any training sessions this week, or do they all go back to respective
So no, they'll
clubs?
go back to either their work, uni. They're not full time. They'll still train, but not together as a squad until next week.
That's tough, isn't it? You know yourself, Mike Mossy, when there is a defeat, the first session you get back almost puts that to bed, but to have that continuing for a week, to be in the back of your head, that's a tougher position.
Yeah, and we're a bit different. Obviously, we've got the ability to pull some players out of the club games. So Scotland will have some training sessions Wednesday and Friday this week. Wednesday we'll be in Edinburgh, and Friday we're up at open session in Stirling, I think.
Yeah, we're at Walls High School, Finn Russell's old school on Friday. I thought we're hoping for
Ali Hogg as well? No, he.
Stirling High, I think Ali Hogg was at. I'm not sure how much he went to school. But I think we've got 1,000 kids coming in to watch the open session on the back of the open session we had at Clydebank, where there was just about 2,000 there. So.
Yeah, so we'll have reasonable numbers for that. As you say, it's disappointing that you don't have that immediate Monday session to review the game, put it to bed, and move on to the next one. We'll do that the following week, which will maybe be a slightly tighter review of the game and preview into the Welsh game. But we'll have 14-15 guys training this week and having a bit of a blow as well, so that'll be good.
Mike, I've just picked up a copy of Scottish Rugby Game by Game. So the reason why I picked it up here is because I've got this little line I want to read out to you, and if you want you to tell me if you know where this game is from. It's the very last line of a description of a game, and all it says is only Mike Blair and Simon Taylor stood out in a tepid Scottish display.
Could be most games, couldn't it?
Mossy, obviously not.
In a tepid Scottish display. I mean, so we're probably either against France or Wales, because that's the last game and the next game we're playing. So you're going to want to keep it relevant. I didn't have many good games against Wales, but I had a couple alright against France.
Can I have a guess?
Yep.
I'm going back to it. Remember when Webber scored that try against Australia?
Yeah.
And this
2006.
Were you playing?
Yeah.
Was it Australia 2006, Jamie?
Nope.
I'm on the right lines, aren't I?
No, but you've shown me up that I could have had a good link there, but
so it's not relevant.
No, it's not relevant. It's kind of relevant because it leads us into
How are you going to link
I
this?
can't give you the team because it'll give it away. It was in
Give us a year.
2002.
Oh well, I mean,
I barely knew what rugby was then.
All right.
I'd only recently been born, so.
Older than me.
2002.
Your debut was 2002, but
Could it be Barbarians? Could it be Barbarians?
No,
what was I playing?
you were both playing it.
I
Yeah.
must have been.
Oh, so you were
Was Al playing as well?
You were tepid
I
then,
wasn't.
must
Not 2002.
If I read out the team, would that help you?
Yes,
Glenn Metcalf, Rory Kerr, Andy Craig.
Canada. 2002
That's your first cap.
debut.
Correct. Well
Simon
done.
Webster
Yeah.
wasn't playing there, was he?
No, Simon Taylor.
Oh,
Chris
I've
Patterson at 10.
completely.
That's where you got went wrong.
No, Mossy
Chris on
wasn't
the wing.
at 10.
You're the wing. Hodgie at 10. Mike, Matty Stewart, Gordon Bullock, Craig Smith, Nathan Hines, Stuart Grimes, Jason White, Simon Taylor, and Johnny Petrie.
sorry,
We were actually back. So that was in the Thunderbird. It was at Thunderbird Stadium,
Thunderbird
Canada.
Thunderbird Stadium in Vancouver.
So we were back there last summer, and I always remember, like, people always say to you, "Oh, when you got your first cap, what was it like? You must have been so proud, and what was the atmosphere like?" And blah. And do you remember that game? It was about 2,500 people. There was a stand, like, on three sides there were like sheep grazing in fields, and we lost.
There was a big beer tent behind the post that was busier than the bank. You actually sent me a photo.
Yeah.
The last time you did, just in the summer, just with this big smiley happy face. You remember this place?
I don't think it was a smiley happy
Nah.
face.
You were in the Balboa
what were-
Stadium the next again week to
Who
play
were
the
the try scorers that day?
Remember
Jamie?
that?
Try scorers: Mike Blair,
Chris Patterson.
Simon Taylor.
I've lost my page. Hold on.
Come on.
Oh, you've only got 14,000 pages to flick through.
I'm currently at 1990, 95.
Yeah, those are
You scored a try and debut, wasn't it?
Yeah, try and debut. I said to my mum and dad, I said, if I score a try, I'll touch my nose to let you know I'm thinking about you. Gordon Bullock was just about to score the try and if I driving him on, I just nipped it at the final minute and put the ball down.
Yeah, it was Simon Taylor, Mossy, you got a try as well, and Mike. Yeah.
So that's 1-0 in the quiz.
Mossy, you never got a mention. Why not?
I must have been rubbish.
He was tepid.
You were in the Balboa Stadium the following week for the game against the State. I think it was just a 2-match tour, that one.
2 tests. We played Rugby Canada the week before that game in Vancouver, which was effectively the same side, but it wasn't a test, and we'd won well, hadn't we, in Toronto?
Which was the Balboa one?
That was
San Francisco. What happened that day? A first for Scotland?
Nathan Hines, red card. Ali Hogg on the bench would have been the youngest Scotland cap in a century, I think, and didn't get on because Big Wag had been red carded.
Was that the first Scotland red card whatever in international rugby?
No, Mossy said it was, so it was.
What did he get red carded for?
Threw a punch and connected. It wasn't. There wasn't any sort of debate about whether it was a red card. I was in the stand that day. I actually flew over to stay out on holiday with Andy Henderson and Rory Kerr.
That's right.
And
Lads on tour, was it?
Lads on tour.
Wow.
Did you bring your boots secretly hoping you might get a game?
And Andy Nicol.
Brought the canoes in.
One thing I want to ask you too about Mossy and Mike is colourblindness. It's something you guys suffer from, but as professional athletes, what kind of effects that maybe we don't know about does that have on you guys when you're performing at elite level?
It's funny, like, see, if you're coaching, you lay a red cone out, you can't see it, and it's red. I'm red-green colourblind. You're the same.
Yeah, same.
So do you need somebody else to tell you that's a red cone
I have to ask
you're
whoever
putting
coach you, like, green or yellow cones as well. Kind of confuse me, so I'm not sure which one's which.
But you can't. If you put it on the grass, you can't see that cone.
Well, if
you have to look really hard to see it, but you can't see it in your periphery. And if you say, right, run to the red cone, you're like, somebody's moving my red cones. But
if you imagine you put a green cone in the green grass, that's for me. That's kind of like what a red cone in the green grass is. Like you kind of see it if you really focus on it, but
it kind of blends in. But remember, I was injured, but you played at a game at Pitaudry where there was snow on the field and the lines got painted red to go pink. You can
that's it. Because I think I was maybe captain at the time, and the game was almost in danger of being called off, but they said, we've managed to sweep most of the pitch, but we've had to paint the touch lines just so that, if a bit of snow does come down, we'll be able to differentiate between the white lines and the snow. I said, all right, cool. I said, what colour you put them? I said, I put them red. I said, well, that's not very helpful. And Frank said, well, why not? I said, well, I can't see the red. So it's just like a massive pitch for me, and a massive open pitch. And then we turned up, and I was speaking to the groundsman just before I went out, and he's like, are you the one that's caused this issue? And I was like, oh, sorry. He's like, it's the first game you're going to have pink touch lines for. So that was brilliant. Wow. But like, I think like there is a kind of serious element to it. Like when I watch like Wales South Africa or something, I see basically 30 strips the same. Like when I played, like if you made a line break or something and you're trying to find your support, like some people pick up that really clear colour compared to
differentiation.
Yeah. Or if someone's if you've got a winger who's standing up against the crowd in behind, you might not be able to really clearly pick out that way.
I remember playing at night time. I know it sounds weird, but when we played for Edinburgh and kind of dark red shirt and Scarlett would come up with their dark red. I remember a couple of times making a line break from counter attack, running what I thought was space, and somebody between two of my own men and just getting absolutely smashed. And it's like, just because your focus is almost on the ball, you're running, you're scanning the whole time, and because there's not that real clear division in our eyes, I suppose. I remember just getting absolutely smashed and thinking.
So did you have like any like strategies or anything or things you could work on that makes anything easier, or?
This is fascinating to me. I had no idea.
I've had I've complained about strips before. To saying why we're not, like, if we've got an option to wear a white against a dark blue, why we're not playing in white as opposed to playing in black and dark blue. Like I'd have issue with those colours as well.
There's so many outfits that Mike's worn on a night out that are beginning to make sense to me as well.
It wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault.
What have I ever seen you in a night out? I'm trying to avoid you. But like it goes into like, so for example, like analysis stuff that we'll do after a game. We'd have a graph with maybe 3 different colours in it that are showing like ball carries, tackles, and clear outs or something. And it was red, green, and yellow or something. And I'm like, you've got three things, but you've only got 2 colours. And I'm looking there, shaking my head, how unprofessional. It's like, Mike, there are 3 colours there.
Do you know the other one? And you're the same because we've spoken about this. It's a nightmare. You know the red laser pointer you get.
Yeah.
So if there's stuff on the screen and coaches or players are using the laser pointer to circle, but I just can't see the dot. I can't see the red dot, and I've no idea where the space is. We've got to attack this space here, or
the amount
You need a meter stick.
I'm no idea where that's.
The amount of times that I've been using it and pointing at the screen, like go for 3 or 4 seconds, say, "Oh, sorry guys, the bloody pen's not working, is it?" And then like it's all over the screen.
Can't pick it up.
There was some Pro 14 action as well over the Six Nations weekend. Mike, I know you cast an eye over the Glasgow game. You're still involved with the coaching setup there. A great result. What do you make of the game?
Brilliant result. We talked about in the France game about how you start the game and create momentum. I thought Glasgow right off the kick-off, absolutely superb try within 45 seconds. George Horn hadn't played for 2 or 3 weeks and kind of continued where he left off with the try scoring, but it was just a great way to start a game. I think Al would appreciate the driving maul straight off the kickoff. I think Nico Matuala was steering that ship at the back, and really good start. Some young players coming through who've not seen a huge amount of grasping their opportunity, and against a pretty strong team, Connacht team, only missing a couple of players. It was a comfortable victory and some great rugby.
It was a good mix of Glasgow put out though, because there was a decent amount of experience in that team as well that were able to bring those young players through, and that's a key at times like this, isn't it, when there's so many guys away playing international rugby.
Yeah, and the forwards in particular were a unit that have played together for a fair bit. The backs, there was a lot of youth in there, but then when you get front football, you kind of bring out that confidence and exuberance that we know they're able to do.
It was also nice to see Matt Ferguson back as well, so he's come back from injury, which was good to see. I think he got 25 minutes.
Yeah,
so
he's a cracking
right.
player, Matt. He's got a lot of fast twitch fibres. He's a power athlete.
What are those? He's got what?
I did sports science. Yeah, you didn't have many.
No, you're right.
Yeah, actually, but Mike, pick you up. Yeah, actually, you have them or you don't. You can't develop fast twitch, can you?
Yeah, I'm like out.
You walked into that.
He's a power athlete, and there aren't a huge amount of guys like him in the Scottish game at the moment. And he's young. He's got time to develop. So great to see him back after his injury.
And good for Scotland as well, I suppose.
Yeah, he'll come back into the mix. He needs to keep performing, but he's certainly a name that'll be mentioned.
Good result for Glasgow. Edinburgh here at BT Murfield at home. They were winning the game. They unfortunately went on to lose that game. I caught the tail end of it. Anyone else catch that game?
Just disappointing, wasn't it? I mean, I think we, over the last few times we've seen Cardiff, and Michael know better than most over this season, a number of times I've placed the play to the bitter end. You saw last week coming back, challenging Glasgow down there, and I also saw last week, and it was all season, how quick and attack minded the players are. So really disappointing one from Edinburgh's point of view. 17-0 up, conceding late tries, and it's it'll be a frustrating one because that makes a big conference. Conference B is so close behind Leinster. Leinster obviously way out in front, 68 points, and you've got Benetton, who had a good bonus point win the weekend, and actually play Edinburgh in Treviso this weekend on 46, Ulster on 44, and Edinburgh dropped down to 4th and 42. So it's a big game this weekend, and it's one that at home will really frustrate Edinburgh and the supporters to be in such a dominant winning position to come the wrong side of it.
Yeah, it'll be disappointing. They had a few ones at the beginning of the season where they lost narrowly at the end of the game. To be 17-0 up, they should have gone on and won that game. It makes next week massive. Now, 57 points Benetton scored against the Dragons, and that's with a huge percentage of that scored away with Italy. So next week's going to be a big test, but as far as the league positions, the final league positions, it's a massive game.
So earlier on today, Mike, we went out on Instagram and got the fans to get in touch with any questions for you. Lindsay's got a few of them right now.
Okay, so Mike, you You won 85 caps for Scotland, and we've got a question for you. What was your greatest game you played for Scotland?
The answer would probably be different about the greatest Scotland game I was involved in and the greatest game that I played in. Probably the one I probably enjoyed the most was when I was captain for the first time at Murrayfield against England in 2008, and we won that. I think both of you guys were playing. Al, were you playing?
I was injured. I watched it.
Slash and unselected. Mossy was playing. Mossy kicked all the points. No doubt. So I mean, it wasn't you'll remember as well, Moss. It wasn't a great game. It was wet, windy, miserable. But to kind of run out the front of the team for that game and to win the game was pretty special. I'm trying to think of a game where I played well and enjoyed it. But I'm struggling to get. I enjoyed the my first game for Scotland actually, not the beauty at Thunderbird Stadium, but we played the Barbarians
before we left.
Just before we left, 2002. So I was still the kind of the most senior game I'd kind of played before that was for Boroughmuir against Melrose or something, and really enjoyed that game. Played against some real stars of the game. Peter Rousseau was playing, Skinstad was playing. There's some brilliant players, and so it's a bit surreal for me, but really enjoyed that game. Yeah.
Do you wish you were still on the pitch, or has your kind of transition into coaching been enough?
Not really. I think Moss probably agrees with me more than Al, maybe. Or do you don't fancy playing either?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not the slightest.
Like there was some when we turned up at Stade de France on Saturday, and the sun was shining, and there wasn't a breath of wind. I did think, these are the kind of games that I'd enjoy. But the vast majority of the time, I don't miss it. Don't fancy doing it too much.
So do you choose to run the water, or
do I choose? That
so that
makes
you're
it sound
closer?
like
Do you
I've
choose
got an
so
option.
that's what you would like to do, or if you had the choice, would you choose to do it?
No, I like doing it. I like doing it. I think there's some positives to it for me, potentially for the players as well. The one bit, the kind of downside to it is if I go and speak to the other coaches to analyse what happened in the first half, you don't see the same things as you would if you're standing 60 feet back in the stand and being able to see that whole big picture. So that's a bit frustrating. If I want to feed back on something, I don't have the that kind of hawk eye to look at it, but I enjoy being part of the experience, I guess. How
much are you passing on the direct messages you get into your ear, and how much is you using your own rugby knowledge to filter them at times, or to make sure the message is delivered in the right way?
I think both Gregor and Dave Rennie are aware that I'm not going to be able to put on every message that they give me. There are some games that, I think it was the Leon away game for Glasgow, I didn't get on the pitch for the first 20 minutes just because there were no stoppages. It just kept on moving. So in that sense, you've got to try and filter them and choose the ones that are the most important. Sometimes you'll get a passionate one of just make sure they make their tackles, which it's not really something that you pass on.
I ran a lot of messages in the last couple of seasons. I was still playing, but I was apparently better at being a water boy.
You did a good job though.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Got into the final.
The other thing on that,
those messages from the touchline.
I remember being involved in the game a few years ago, and by the time you can get the message on, it's changed sometimes. Yeah. So if there's a really key pertinent point about how the defence are defending, or what the attack doing, or how many they're putting it in a breakdown, if you are 20 minutes before there's an opportunity for it to get on for a break, and the message could be completely different. Yeah. So that's where you have to really work with the players through the week for them to adapt and make their own decisions.
And you don't mind a bit of chat with the referee when you go on as well, Michael, sometimes?
And I still know most of the referees from when I played and got on well with them then, and try and help them out. And
you always take a drink if you offer it.
You got to give them a bit of water. Yeah. Make sure they're well hydrated so they can make good decisions.
Good. Okay, I've got one last question. You've got a nickname, and
which one?
So the one I know of, Blade. Where did that come from?
So you want the real story, or the one that everyone tells the story?
Which one's better? Is it because you're sharp?
Right, I'll tell you. No, nothing to do with any of that. And it's not me talking myself up at all. So I'll try and make it pretty short. Basically, when My first year with Edinburgh, and you were both at Edinburgh, so you can vouch for this. So Ian Rankin was manager at the time, and he said, right, we're on the bus on the way to an away game, and he said, right guys, we're putting nicknames on the back of the training jerseys, so you need to put one on. And I'm sitting next to Simon Taylor, and I said to Ranks, I say, I don't have a nickname, just put Mike or Blair. And Simon's sitting next to me, he's like, you can't put Mike or Blair on the back of your shirt. And I said, well, I don't have a nickname. He's like, well, put Blade on. So basically I put Blade on the back of my jersey, and then obviously people thought it fitted quite well with my chat and ability, and then it kind of stuck. Simon put Apollo on his, which didn't stick at all. So that's the true story. So it's nothing to do with me being called it at school, nothing to do with anyone giving it to me. That's how it came about.
Yeah, although I thought it was you that made it up and not Simon Taylor.
Did you guys pick your ones?
Well, Mossy had Mossy.
Did you already have Mossy, or?
Yeah, for about 25 years prior to that.
Yeah.
Mossy, how do you feel about people picking their own nicknames, or do you think people have to be given nicknames? Because I have a feeling you'll have an opinion on this. I
would say most people would be given a nickname.
Yeah,
I don't think many would choose to.
Well, we changed it the next 10 years. Remember that? So the new young lads that came in, we didn't ask them what they wanted in the back of their jersey. They were told what they were given a jersey.
Do you know the other thing about that is, like, obviously a lot of the guys give their kit away, and then fast forward 10 or 15 years, you're asked to do a session someplace, you see somebody run about with a nickname Blade or Big Al. Do
you remember Rory Lawson's one?
Yes.
Rory Lawson was like, you guys can call me Young Gun, yeah? And he was like, why are we calling me Young Gun? He said, oh, well, when I was playing for Heriots, I was named Young Gun of the Year. And Chunk's like, Alan James was like, there's no way we're calling you that. You're called Frog. Said Frog on the back of his jersey.
He still gets referred to as Frog on occasion.
So yeah, nicknames are given, I think.
So Mike, before you have to go, I've just got a quick quiz. We'll give you a wee score at the end. So question number 1, who won the Champions Cup last year?
They beat Racing in the final.
They did a double?
Well, it was Leinster, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Correct. Who was the Scotland head coach between 2009 and 2012?
Andy Robinson.
Correct. In which country was David Denton born in?
He was born in Zimbabwe.
Who is the most capped British and Irish Lion of all time?
Well, that's a good question. Now, it's going to be someone back a while ago, because they played a lot of games because they went by boat and it wasn't worth going for a game. I'm going to go Willie John McBride.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mike.
Which Australian standoff almost signed for Edinburgh in 2000?
Stephen Larkham.
As of today, what is the next stop in the HSBC Sevens World Series?
Well, when I played Sevens, we went to Gwent.
Gwent, wow.
And Esher. Now they'll probably be going somewhere like the Bahamas or something. Where's the next stop? Well, it's going to be
last weekend in March.
I know we've got Hong Kong in there somewhere. So are we? The next stop, let's say Hong Kong, and then they'll go on to somewhere around that area again.
It's wrong. The correct answer is Las Vegas. Who captained Scotland in the 1988 Five Nations?
Oh, the 1988. Well,
how old were you then?
Just born, actually. I'd have been a year old. 1988. Well, I'm pretty sure that it will be Finn. It could well be Finn Calder, because he was captain of the Lions in '89. It wouldn't have been. Would it have been David Soul had started off by that stage? Can I? Is it between those two?
No.
Really? The 88 championship.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Callender.
Point to Mossy.
Yes.
Well, he wasn't playing.
Well, he knew the answer though.
Oh, sorry, I was just trying to help you, Mike.
Mossy,
You take the point.
Mossy wasn't.
Yeah, he said I can take the point.
I'll gift you a point, Mike.
Mossy wasn't playing. Is that what you mean?
No.
Who refereed the Rugby World Cup final in 2011?
Well, it was Craig Joubert, wasn't it?
Correct. Also in 2011, which Scotland player scored their first try against France? Sorry, the first try for Scotland against France.
In 2011, so that was an away game, so that was Tom Evans.
No, it wasn't.
No, who was the answer? Al?
Sorry. Al Kellogg. I remember that. It was from about half a yard, wasn't it? Absolutely penknifed, but somehow got the ball in.
That try's been mentioned every week in the podcast.
And it is
the only one you can mention.
It's only try.
Tom Evans was 2009.
You said
apologies.
that, didn't you?
Yeah, nah, Phil Godman, inside ball.
And final question, who got more caps, Glenn Metcalf or Martin Leslie?
What a super question.
Snowman.
How many is between them?
3 points between them.
3 points. Not caps.
Three caps.
Drop goal or penalty.
You get a point per cap. Well, they're both in the 30s. Okay.
Wow.
I'd say. So there are 3 caps between them.
Yep.
Now, we'll go with Glenn Metcalf would have about 34, and Martin Leslie about 31.
So you're saying Glenn has more?
Yep.
That's correct, but the numbers are wrong.
Oh yeah.
Good effort though.
What are the numbers?
Glenn Metcalf, 40.
Wow.
And Martin Leslie, 37.
Yeah. I usually love the cap game.
Yeah.
Give me another one.
My caps did Chris Custer get?
He'd have been 70.
Rory Lawson?
37.
Brian Redpath?
60.
You realise Al doesn't know that you.
No,
Well, I'm sure someone will tell. I'm sure someone will tell.
You two are like Stato though. The two of you.
I know,
can
but like
pull-
the whole point of asking the question is if you know the answer, you can tell
Yeah,
if it's right or
No,
wrong.
no, I do know the answer. So far you've got one wrong.
Which one?
I'm not sure.
Mike, it's been brilliant having you here in the studio.
Well,
I think Al's enjoyed it the most of everyone. Thank you very much for your time and best luck for the rest of the Guinness Six Nations.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, guys.
Rugby Force is back this August. We've all been involved in it in some capacity, but Lynn, do you know a little bit more about it?
Yeah, Rugby Force is a fantastic initiative for clubs to open up their doors for the day, encourage volunteers, coaches, players across all their different sections to come down and get involved. It's quite a good way to kick off your season, so get your club's application in now.
Yeah, I think they're open till May 24th, so for more information just search Royal Bank Rugby Force or check out scottishrugby.org. No Six Nations next weekend, but the Tenants Premiership returns. Mossy, you've had a look at the fixtures. Some big games coming up.
Yeah, final round of regulation fixtures this weekend. So the top 4 are obviously go through to the playoffs, semi-final and final. And the top 4 are set already. Ayr at top, Carry 63 points, Herod 62, Melrose 61, Watonans are 5th and 53, so they can't catch. Ayr are guaranteed a home semi, they've got 71 points, so there's only 2 points between Carry, Herod and Melrose for that second spot that would guarantee a home semi-final. So the fixtures, Watonans play Ayr, Hawick at home to Herod, Hawks play Stirling, Boroughmuir play Melrose, and Carry versus Accies. So a lot to play for, certainly for Carry, Herod and Melrose with the playoffs coming thereafter.
And if you can't get along to those games the weekend, we'll have all the action on our YouTube channel on the following Monday, and you'll also find out more about those games on our brand new website at scottishrugby.org. One more thing, just want to chat to you guys about what happened in football in the Chelsea match at the weekend. So the goalkeeper it was extra time, the goalkeeper was on the pitch, and they were looking to replace the goalkeeper for the penalty shootout, and he refused to come off, and you can see the manager getting really irate. From your guys' point of view, when you're told it's time to go off the pitch, does that just show you a clear disjoint between the manager and the team?
absolutely. I thought it was dreadful. Now they've come out and they've tried to excuse it that there was a miscommunication. Now everybody's mic'd up; they know what's going on there. I thought it showed that who's more powerful in a football team at the moment. Is it the players or is it the manager? It never happened in rugby.
Are they mic'd up?
Well, if they're not, should they not?
No,
be?
they're in rugby, but I don't think they are in football. But I mean, there's still no defence. I totally agree with Al. It's a bit of a shock of that. And also, how does maybe really have a go at goalkeepers? But how do they get cramp? I know it was an extra time in that, but Was that a surprise? Goalie getting a crown?
Well, it was right before.
I don't know, it depends how much pressure he was under before.
Yeah. I didn't see the game, it's just because I knew it was an extra time. I was about to go to penalties, and they were looking to change their goalkeeper for the penalty shootout.
I know, but
they did it with the World Cup a few years ago. Where they brought, I think it was the Netherlands brought on their
Tim
goalkeeper.
Krul.
Brought him on, and it worked, but no, I don't know. Cramp.
Well, it was down to treatment, and that was the trigger for the whole thing. But I wonder if I put GPS in goalies, how.
Yeah, he'd probably been up 300 or 400 metres during the game, I would have thought.
That's your record for a game.
There we go. You see people not being happy about it, and even when football, you see it probably more in rugby. Not everybody wants to be subbed. In fact, very few people would be, and they come off and it's all about them. I think it's dreadful. It has to be about, obviously, the coach making the better decision for the team. Now, if he thought the keeper was injured, he's got every right to take him off. But ultimately, it's that coach's decision.
Do you think it went so far for the keeper? He's made a decision and now he can't back down.
Doesn't matter.
No,
and now today he's probably regretting it. But
well, again, I'm not sure he will regret it, because in a rugby scenario, if somebody had done something like that, then they wouldn't be playing.
Yeah.
But I fully expect to see him back out there. Like, even when people come off and they kick the water bottle or they refuse to shake hands, I think it's dreadful. You come off, you take it on the chin, and if you need to deal with it inside, you deal with it inside.
Thanks very much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. We'll be back next week with more exclusive content.